Hey guys, it's Monsel with Nootropedia, and although I'm not necessarily involved in the day-to-day in Nootropedia, I'm still creating some content to provide you with some value as the Nootropedia owners transition. So today I wanted to chat with you about some data that I found that is super compelling, and it's about a nootropic survey done on the Reddit Nootropics section. Now there's two things that I really love when helping you all to determine what type of nootropics and smart drugs to use. One of the things is research and data that you can find from really valid scientific labs, and then there's the anecdotal evidence, which many hotty-toddy data-oriented people like to poo-poo, but the truth is anecdotal accounts give us another set of data that we can determine whether or not we want to use a certain nootropic or smart drug. Now the experiences of other people, even though they may or may not be related to us, do inform whether or not we even want to take the risk, and that's why I love both the data and the research combined with the anecdotal and experiential evidence. Now this Reddit survey from 2017 gives us a little bit of both. 380 participants were involved with this survey and 91% were male. The interesting thing is they included a personality survey. They found that a lot of the participants were low in their extroversion, meaning they didn't have lots of close, tight-knit friends. They were also low in agreeableness. For lack of a better way of describing it, they're not as nice. And they were high in neuroticism, which suggests they have a higher level of anxiety and mood swings. And so the types of people were kind of self-selecting in this cohort, but it is still nonetheless interesting for some of the key takeaways that I pulled out of it. Now the first survey category was different nootropics that people found to be pleasant. And I found this interesting because there were some typical pharmaceutical-based drugs like phenibut and tianeptine, both of which are powerful, can really help with anxiety and depression, but are also going to come with added risks for tolerance, withdrawal effects, and addiction potential. And so with those, I kind of prefer people not go towards them unless they really need them or are really aware of what they're doing with them. However, the number one most pleasant nootropic, according to the survey, was microdosing LSD. I find this to be really interesting because other than the legality issues, microdosing is a relatively safe and effective way to improve pleasant sensations. That's kind of ironic because microdosing is supposed to be done at a subperceptual level. So if people are really using a microdose effectively, they shouldn't actually be able to feel it according to the James Fadiman definition. Now another thing I found interesting was all the most unpleasant drugs on the list in the survey were experimental drugs, L-Deprenyl and all these other different types of drugs that some of which I have never even heard of, and they all provided unpleasant sensations. So it's a good indicator that sometimes the experimental is really not a great option to utilize. Now the next category they looked at was anxiety, and again you have far and away the number one was phenibut, and again what I would suggest is only use that if you're really aware of what you're doing. But the key takeaway for me was kava was the second most effective at reducing anxiety, and so it's both very effective but also very safe. It's a natural extract and it can be used relatively simply. When they looked at focus, I found some interesting things. After the first 8 were standard stimulants, adderall, methylphenidate, caffeine, things like that, which have value and you can use some of them, but realistically they're just stimulants. The number 9 place was oxiracetam, which was relatively high for this type of nootropic that I haven't ever considered to be a super focus enhancing drug. But I do remember that many computer programmers often considered oxiracetam to be one of the best racetams, and it also probably doesn't have the same tolerance issue that phenylpiracetam does. So oxiracetam might be something that not only you utilize, but I might actually start to revisit as a result of seeing some of these surveys. Now, the final takeaway that I had was pretty interesting because I just simply didn't believe the survey participants when they said that the top 3 or 5 memory enhancer for them was Adderall. Now, Adderall and amphetamine-based drugs consistently are misrepresented by people who take them because subjectively they provide so much mental stimulation, they make things so much more positive because of the dopamine, exogenous dopamine dump that's being provided, that most people have a hard time ascertaining their true cognitive capacity. And so there's actually studies that show people just genuinely don't know that their cognition is impaired when they take a stimulant like Adderall. And I think that this survey suggesting that Adderall would improve memory is probably getting some of those things confused. So I don't know necessarily what the case may be, but perhaps there is some evidence somewhere that suggests Adderall can be helpful for memory. From my perspective, if you've been diagnosed with Adderall, then it could be, super valuable to you for all of the above. If you haven't been, you probably should not be taking it. And if you have been prescribed Adderall, but you just want to stop, then you might consider alternatives as well. But these are, some of the biggest things that I was able to notice looking through the survey data. And I think that they're really valuable. Just to recap, kava for anxiety for both safety and efficacy. Oxiracetam might be a really valuable focus enhancer. Microdosing LSD is a really pleasant, life improving practice that doesn't have a lot of side effects. So those are some of the takeaways. Hope you found it useful, and I will see you next time.